for coming tonight for the regular city council meeting November 14th. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Everyone's here except Harvey. I believe he called me today, so he wouldn't be here this evening.
I'll make the motion that we excuse Harvey.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of the minutes, October 24th, 2016. Is there anything that someone would like to add or subtract? Maggie?
I have two corrections. The first one is on the first page. It's in the first paragraph, and it's the fourth line from the bottom. The sentence prior to it says, and they need to be reviewed before they are brought to council, and you have a period. And then the next sentence should start with a capital R. It's just grammatical. The next correction is on page 6, and that is in the second paragraph. And that is in also the fourth line from the bottom. And the sentence begins with Councilmember Kurzweil stated that when you have property that is flooded, the word "and" does not make sense in the sentence, so I would say that it is flooded, comma, you lower the property values, period. So I would delete the word "and." That's it for me. Thank you.
I move the minutes as amended.
Oh,
Tim.
I just, looking at these minutes, I wanted to point out on page 4 that the motion to appoint Michael Joseph to the Planning Commission, he is only being appointed for the remainder of Carol Siegel's term. So I don't know that there's any need for a change. I just wanted to point that out.
I don't recall that being discussed.
I'm not asking for any change in the minutes, but he's only being appointed for the remainder of the position where there was a resignation, so there was a vacancy.
And how long is the remainder, just since you brought it up?
To 17.
Yeah, so March of 17.
Hey, anyone else?
Okay.
I'll second your motion.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the bills?
Move the bills.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the agenda? Anything being added or subtracted?
No.
I'll move the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. This is the time we talk about something. Normally, it's not on the agenda. State your name, address.
Hi, folks. Josie Kearns, 329 Lyon Boulevard in South Lyon. I just want to invite all of you and everybody here to the wonderful opening reception for the Quilt and Fiber Art Show, which is this Wednesday, like in 2 days, from 6 to 8. There'll be refreshments, but not gooey ones, because we have quilts. And we are selling raffle tickets at Lake Street Mercantile, has decided to sell raffle tickets for us, and any of the council members can give you some. And we've sold 127 so far, and we're not going to do the drawing until Friday, December 9th. So come to the show. It's going to be fabulous, and you can see the stuff out there. But please don't touch the quilts. I know it's really, I've had to pull my hand back because they look so wonderful and inviting. Just be careful of that because you have oil on your fingers. I mean, naturally. So that's it. And I want to thank my whole team, everybody that, not my team, but everybody on the commission, and Pat Peruski, who's our committee head. So everybody worked really hard this weekend and this morning, in fact. So it's all great. And a big thank you to Cindy Jones and her husband Lloyd Jones, who came here and helped put things together. And she also donated a quilt for the raffle, and she donated the 3 prizes too. for the quilters and stuff, which is a audience participation, audience choice. So we'll have cards and everything like that for Wednesday. Thank you.
How long will it be set up beyond Wednesday?
December 9th.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
It's a long one. Because, Christmas gifts and stuff like that. Oh, and there will be stuff for sale besides the quilts, smaller wall hangings and things like that at a table at the opening. So bring your checkbooks. Anyway.
Greetings, Carl Richards, 390 Lennox. I have some things I think you should be interested in, and I know you will. About 6 subjects, I'm going to cut them fast. Okay, first of all, I want to proclaim that democracy is alive and well, and I'm pleased with the voter turnout we had at the last election. And I'm sure most of you others will want to speak something on that, so I won't elaborate any further on that, but I'm glad that we had a great turnout. Okay, next item fast. I want to mention our historical open house tomorrow night. We made the front page of the paper over here in the column, if you happen to see that, okay? That's wonderful, and I hope it turns out well. I'm going to participate. I don't organize anything. I just help out whatever they want, and I do my own research and development in. Okay, next item. I want to give thanks to our DPW here. Amazing job they're doing, fantastic. Cleaning the leaves up all over town. They got 2 trucks vacuuming, 2 other trucks hauling, plus the backhoes out there where necessary, picking up brush. And the weather's cooperating. And I'm sure everybody's happy once they're gone, And you got to mention it. They're doing a fantastic job. Okay, the next item, our South Lyon Woods Trailer Park, okay, which I have mentioned before. They've got part of their playground equipment in there. It looks beautiful. The kids are having a ball on it, and it's not even done yet. I don't think they put their ring road in. At least when I've been by and seen it, it looks wonderful, and I think they're doing a great job. Okay, there's more. They're lining up trailers to take out of there. That means more coming in, but I think they've made their quota for this year. That'll be next year when they start bringing new ones in. But they're lining up ones to demolish and take out of there. A lot of this we owe to the efforts of our previous officer, Mr. Tom Lyons, who went to Colorado and talked to the headquarters directly, and then they came back and worked with him on it. Also, we have a better quality of management in that facility, better than we've had in 20 years, okay? And working together as a team, it's producing results. It's a victory for the community, in my opinion. Okay, next item, the plaza, Huntington Square. It's been 3 weeks since we had our last council meeting, and not too much has gone on at that time, but since then, there's been a lot, okay? That base you see up there with asphalt has all been underlaid with crushed limestone and rolled. That never went on in the previous development of that project, to the best of my knowledge. Anyway, they're doing a bang-up job. The first coat of asphalt is down there. I think they call it 412 mix. And the second coat is 411, I believe they call it. And they're waiting for that. Last time I looked, it was a couple days ago. Anyway, that's a victory for the community. Look what we've been through. Look at how vacant it's all been. Okay. Next item, I want to make sure another 3-week vacancy is brought to your attention. Where the ATI building is, okay, now is occupied by a new concern called Plymouth Physical Therapy. I've been there a couple times. The doors aren't open yet, I guess, but nobody's there. But I've looked inside, and they've got all kinds of equipment. They're evidently planning on staying and doing good business with all their therapists that they have on the window. So I imagine, overall, it's another victory for the community. That's a major building in town that's been vacant for a good 6 months or more, and now we got something in there. Lastly, I want to give credit to where credit is due. Our Planning Commission, okay. I attended last Thursday night, and I got to give them credit. The chairman is here tonight, and I've expressed that with him. They got everything right last night, and the minutes were all approved from the previous meeting, and progress was made. And I don't give that out lightly. Anyway, later on in the evening at item 3 on new business, if I may have something to say after the primary concern goes on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
Good evening. I'm Cheryl Van Vliet, and I reside in Canton, Michigan. I'm a member of the Plymouth Canton Civitan Club, and we are forming a club in your area. It's the new Kensington Valley Civitan Club, so I'm here to make sure you have heard of us. We have been at several of your events, the Pumpkin Fest, the Summer Fest, and we are searching for new members to the club. I brought some information to leave with you. We are very much a 100-year-old service club in 48 countries, so we're not a fly-by-night organization. I've been a member for 30 years. It is a great way for people to get involved in their community, and the club will determine what they wish to work on in your community. So we're looking forward to a long history in your community, and I'm going to give you my information, and I hope you know somebody who'd like to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Campaign's over, we'll be there for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Also, it's kind of a little special moment, I believe. It always is when we have someone that dedicates their time and efforts to something as so grandeur as being a fireman or being a policeman of that nature. So with that, Chief?
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council, for the time this evening. Yep, it's always exciting when we get to recognize our staff. So tonight, have the privilege of swearing in now Lieutenant Brad Monahan. He's been with the South Lyon Fire Department for the last 9 years. Previously was at the rank of sergeant. We do an outside process, a written exam, outside oral board, and a final oral board with the chief officers. Brad placed on the list, and we had an opening, and we're very happy to be able to promote him tonight. I would ask the city clerk to please administer the oath. I'll have you go ahead and please pin the badge. Oh, sorry. Thank you. And Brad's fiance Ariel is pinning the badge on him tonight. So. And he's in good terms because she didn't put it in straight; she put it down. So that's a good thing. So. Thank you.
That's great.
Okay, we have a public hearing, the Community Development Block Grant public hearing for fiscal year 2017. 8:45?
7:45.
7:45. I'm still on that clock thing.
Just let people know.
You need to ask for public comment. If there's
Yeah,
anyone.
public comment in regards to the, sorry.
Hello. My name is Sierra, and I reside in Ann Arbor, but I'm here representing Haven up in Pontiac. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity this evening. So we sent you a letter a while back requesting funds under the Community Development Block Grant. Your continued support of Haven has allowed us to serve residents of South Lyon for many years now. In the last year, we were able to serve 18 members of South Lyon's community in our various programs, and additionally, we took 7 crisis calls from residents of South Lyon, and so that's why we request your continued support in the form of $6,500. I would love to answer any questions that you have about Haven or any other information that I can provide for you tonight.
Well, the only one I had was, our contribution is still 5,000, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So
Okay,
I just wanted to get clarity on that.
sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone else? Close the meeting at 7:47.
Meeting or the hearing?
Here.
The hearing.
Everybody pulls
No, we're
for
not
the
that
doors.
quick. Calm down. Our old business. Consider approval of a resolution establishing policies and guidelines for granting poverty exemption from the payment and property taxes and the poverty exemption application.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'll be addressing this primarily. So this was tabled back in August to do another review of it and fine tune it. There's been numerous revisions made and some research. It's been provided to Oakland County Equalization, the city's assessor, several times. And the major changes, so there is a resolution that sets the policy guidelines in the application form. This would all be for 2017, and the poverty exemption that's available if you meet certain criteria. It's been updated for the 2017 income levels, and major changes from the first draft that council saw are we had made any property held in trust to be ineligible based on comments from OCE. They've indicated that there are circumstances where a property held in trust can still satisfy the primary residence exemption, which would then seemingly make them available and eligible to have a poverty exemption as well if they meet the criteria. So that's one of the changes. We had initially included a provision for residents 65 and older. They could add one more person to the household. That was removed based on concerns raised by OCE. They had not seen that before, and they were concerned about whether that would withstand legal challenge. They had not seen it one way or the other, but they were concerned about it. We also removed the formula. So if you recall, there was by statute, the Board of Review can grant a full or a partial exemption. The partial exemption had a formula for determining exactly what that number would be. Based on discussions with OCE, they wanted us to remove that and provide greater flexibility to the Board of Review. And everybody is now sensitized to this issue. So they also included this summary asset and income worksheet that would help them evaluate. They have the applicant fill it out, and I think internally OCE fills that out. So they have an understanding of the person's income, expenses, and the assets that they have. And then they can provide a recommendation to the Board of Review about whether a partial is appropriate, a full, and that would provide some flexibility based on the information received from the applicant about what the partial level, what exemption would be given on a partial basis. So there is some reasoning behind that. Also, a terminology change. The Michigan Treasury bulletins use total household resources as opposed to household income. So in dealing with OCE, they gave me kind of a crash course on that. We changed that language, which is not terribly a big deal, but it does help clarify what is considered to be income for purposes of the poverty exemption. And Also, the summary worksheet is being included in the application. So we would ask that the application be filled out and also that summary worksheet that OCE provided. Largely, a lot of these changes are to pull out some of the complexity and make this a little more straightforward. You apply the statutory requirements, which are an income and an asset test. OCE does this for a number of communities. They're sensitized to this issue. They've already met with your Board of Review following the last December Board of Review. And I would expect that I will ask them to be doing some training with your Board of Review based on this new policy. So really, it matches up with the statute. This is consistent with the statute. And we would ask that the council approve the resolution, policy guidelines, and the application form.
I've got one
Questions?
question. Yeah. The parameters for the partial, what's the advantage of having it bracketed rather than simply a formulaic determination of what the partial would be?
Well, and again, I don't deal with this on a day-to-day basis, so I did have a detailed discussion with the OCE people about this, and the way I understand it is, you don't know what the story is going to be. You don't know why someone needs the poverty exemption. It could be an elderly couple where one is in the hospital and the income has, they don't have the income to satisfy and pay their taxes. It could be any number of scenarios, and what they've asked for is, rather than saying that it's this 95% of your gross adjusted income kind of thing, that by statute, it does authorize the Board of Review to give a partial exemption. In discussing it amongst themselves, hopefully with the assistance of OCE as your assessor, they can arrive at whether a full or a partial, and what, if it's partial, what that number is. What portion of the taxes will they be exempt from having to pay? And it really just allows the flexibility to meet the statutory requirements. They will be looking at income and the assets and making a decision based on all the information before the Board of Review.
I'm certainly open to the way you just laid that whole thing out. I'm just wondering if OCE is so vital to this calculation, why do we have a Board of Review? Why aren't they simply relegating what the answers are then?
Well, they're a staff member, essentially. You have provisions in your charter for a city assessor. They deal with, the valuation of property for tax purposes. They're the people that deal with it day to day and will be able to help the Board of Review determine, here's the income, here's the assets, do they meet the requirements, here's the impact, if they're exempt, here's what they owe. And I think they would act as, and do act as, a staff input in this process. The decision maker by your charter and by statute is the Board of Review, which is a three-person board.
Yeah, thank you.
The additional reason is because the Board of Review members live in the community where the applicant is located. The people up in Pontiac aren't down here in South Lyon. They don't sometimes have a personal familiarity with the applicant, and it's not intended to be a controlled kind of decision that is being made by the county. These decisions have always been intended, because this is a statutory commission, have always been intended to be part of the community. The community makes the decision. They live with the individuals. They know the backgrounds better than Oakland County does. So that's one of the reasons there. This is a major overhaul of Board of Review. The Board of Review in the city has been archaic for almost 20 years. So to see this form getting revamped, and Tim, I think your office did a really good job in doing it. What I was really impressed with was the worksheet that came with it. And hopefully this form will get on the website, because I really think that this is probably a template for any city in the state of Michigan to probably use. It's that good. I mean, this form is that good. But that also lets you know how outdated the form was in terms of people just not staying on top of managing this commission. It did have some other criteria here down at the bottom, and I don't want to lose sleep over this, but whatever council wants to do, is that you talk about some other suggested criteria for the poverty exemption, and that these sort of would require some additional policy issues. and additional investigation. You know, I hate to leave this stuff sort of half hanging, because that's kind of what we do once in a while in the city, is we start on something and then it never gets done, never gets finished, and you know, there's always these little things that just hang on. And this criteria, I think, is pretty important to at least set an agenda on and say, from a policy standpoint, we should probably at least talk about it. I don't have any skin in the game, so none of these policies are that important to me with respect to actually arguing and taking a position on. But I do think that council does need to take that additional step, that investigative step, while we're cleaning up this mess, and talk about whether we're going to establish the number of consecutive years a person is eligible for a poverty exemption, establishing the criteria tying the amount of the exemption to the applicant's income. These policy decisions we have, the SEV value of the real estate, I think, is probably very important. You know, whether or not our community wants somebody who's living in a $400,000 house being eligible for a poverty exemption. So I think these are further policy issues that we really need to sort of wrap this thing up, because I feel like we're only half dealing with the issue, because these are pretty big policy issues. So I'd like to know if we could get these on the agenda at some point in the future. I don't know if it's real relevant for this year, for 2017, but at least I'd like to get this on the management matrix, or at least I'm working on a management matrix, so that we can at least address these sometime next year and get some feel with it. There was an additional reason I just wanted to let people know why I've been pushing to get this done, is because I'm very interested in the management process of this form. And Tim, I think you hit on it, and I was glad to hear that. Sometimes when we do things, we do them at the last minute, and we don't have the proper training that goes along with the process that we have developed here. So I am really glad to hear that somebody, whether it's the county or whether it's your office, comes in here and spends some time with everybody on Board of Review, including the staff who's going to be working with this. They need to sit down and understand these are substantial changes to the form, substantial changes. I think they also need to understand what we're talking about when we've expanded the income criteria on here, as to let people know why that income criteria was expanded. We've expanded 3 categories on this form, and they were expanded for a very, very specific reason, because the form was that deficient. So training is going to be a critical component here, making sure everybody understands how this form operates, get it out there on the website, and that's what I'm going to ask, to follow through on this. And that's why I've been pushing this, because you can't just train somebody, January 31st when you got Board of Review starting in March. So give everybody an opportunity to get trained, ask the questions. If we need to make one more final revision before March, then maybe we do it. Maybe Board of Review has some insight that we haven't thought of. So those are my comments. Thank you for the good work, Tim.
Tim, procedurally, the application is filled out. Does it go initially to the OCE for analysis and then recommendations? Or is the board then going to look at the application, and then go to the OCE after the fact and say, hey, does this qualify?
So as far as I understand, it would be submitted here at the city. It would be directed to the assessor, which is Oakland County Equalization. They would do, I'm not sure they do a formal written review.
Right.
But I think they would analyze materials. I think they would first try and identify any deficiencies in the information provided. For example, do you have the right tax returns? Do you have the deed? Some very fundamental things that you need in order to evaluate this, and then they would start peeling the onion and getting into more of the details about whether there's documentation to support the information about income, expenses, and assets that have been provided by the applicant.
Okay.
And then I think there's a set date for the Board of Reviews.
Right.
And they're available. I think they're multiple hours. They're quite long, and then they take time and evaluate each of the poverty exemption applications during that meeting time with the assistance of the staff.
Okay. And then on page 2 of the application, under the income, the section income information, second sentence, where it says income includes, but it not limited to, I think it should be but is. So second sentence under income.
Okay.
Other than that, I think this is great. Thank you.
Tim, I want to commend you for the hard work on this. We all heard how many changes and additions and deletions have been added, and it reflects really how much work that was needed on this process. It was based off of how much of an overhaul actually was completed. The city is now in a position where we're actually following the correct procedure, which I'm not confident that I can state that we were before in the previous. And now that we're following the correct procedure, one thing that did strike me in the past was that there was various issues where I don't think we were even following. We were in violation of the city charter by not with our appointments and not following what our city charter actually stated as it relates to board of review. So I think this is a great step for our city to be able to once again reform some of our archaic policies that have been around for years that haven't been touched. And I would also like to commend Councilmember Kurzweil for bringing this to the forefront and pushing this, giving the well-needed change that was needed on this. So thank you, Tim, Maggie.
Well, I'll make the motion then to approve the resolution establishing policies and guidelines for granting poverty exemption from payment of property taxes and approve the property exemption application form for the city of South Lyon.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
New business. This is this time of year again. This is interesting. I think I didn't get a chance to see this the first go around. I definitely want to. So I have a mayor proclamation for Tuba Christmas. And I'm sure you're wondering what that is, some of you. So, whereas Tuba Christmas concerts as conceived in 1974 by renowned tubist Harvey G. Phillips have become an annual holiday tradition in cities throughout the world. And whereas Tuba Christmas brings together tuba and euphonium players of all ages to present public concerts of traditional Christmas carols acknowledging their proud musical heritage. And whereas Tuba Christmas honors all great tuba and euphonium players, I have a tough time with that word, through the legendary artist, teacher William J. Bell, born Christmas Day, 1902, pays tribute to all the composers who have given solo and ensemble literature to these grand and deserving instruments. Through American composer Alec Wilder, who contributed his arrangements of Christmas carols to Tuba Christmas, and who died on Christmas Eve, 1980. And whereas Tuba Christmas concerts are presented free for the enjoyment of the public audience, and whereas the Tuba Christmas coordinator Dale Marzuski for the city of South Lyon has brought this unique holiday event conducted by Dale Marzuski to our fair city. Now, therefore, I, John Gallus Jr., Mayor of the city of South Lyon, Michigan, do hereby proclaim December 12, 2016 as Tuba Christmas Day. And throughout the city of South Lyon, furthermore, I bid all the citizens to attend and enjoy this annual Tuba Christmas concert being presented at Salem South Lyon District Library on December 12th, 2016 at 7 p.m. And witness whereof, I hereby set my hand and cause to be affixed to the official seal for the city of South Lyon this day, 14th November 2016. Kind of looking forward to this.
So, John, just to repeat, this will be December 12th, 2016, this year, obviously, at 7 p.m. for those in the audience who would like to attend. This is great.
I have to say, as a kid, when I was growing up, I was, most people know me, I was a kind of a crazy jock kid. I still kind of am, I guess, just haven't grown up. But I also played music quite a bit growing up as well. I was a piano player, and I played cornet and trumpet. And I was forced to make a decision between sports and cornet and trumpet. I chose sports. The band wouldn't let me leave, and they threw a sousaphone and a big old tuba in my hands, and I had no idea it was bigger than me. So I have a little bit of a heartfelt feeling towards this, and I definitely want to see this. I hope everybody else shows up too, because I think it'll be a fantastic event.
I'm sure you would have been a good euphonium player.
Probably. Consider approval of application for the CDBG funds for the fiscal year 2017.
Okay, you should have in front of you a copy of our completed application thus far. The only thing it's missing is a copy of the minutes from the public hearing this evening. We are continuing to support two projects, the Center for Active Aging, which is the senior center, and Haven, which we do through a pass-through from the county. Our total anticipated allotment this year is $36,024. So we would be doing $31,024 to the senior center and $5,000 to Haven.
And Lynn, John, if I may, just for clarification, we all are still supporting the Southline Youth Assistance as well, but that's
Yes,
coming from a different,
We support that through the general fund
Right.
as well as.
I recall that. I just wanted to make that clear because we didn't just mention it, but we are supporting it.
So what do you have to do, make a motion to approve it?
Motion to approve the,
I'll make the motion that we approve the application for the CDBG funds for fiscal year 2017 as presented on the application.
Second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consider the proposal for HRC to begin preliminary design work for the federal aid project on McMunn Street.
as you remember, the city of South Lyon had approximately $90,000 in federal earmark money that was originally earmarked for use on Lafayette between McCaddy and McCaddy and, now I'm drawing a blank on the street, Liberty.
Liberty, yeah.
Liberty, McCaddy and Liberty. The federal legislature recently this summer approved a new bill that allowed you to relocate the earmarked funds within 50 miles of the original earmark. That is something that had never been allowed before without actual federal Congress taking action. SEMCOG approached me and asked me if City of South Lyon would be willing to donate our $90,000 to one of the other Oakland County projects that they were working on, to which I said, no, we have plenty of street work that we need to do. If we can relocate $90,000 for a street that needs work done within the city, we'll do that. We applied, had HRC put together cost estimates for a couple of federal aid areas that would benefit from this, and found that the McMunn Street project between Dorothy and McCaddy was in most need and most within our budget for the 2017 year. So what we're asking now, and Mike is here to answer any questions, is for permission for the funds to begin the preliminary design so that when the new fiscal year rolls around, we are ready to begin the project.
Mike?
So the total project cost is around 432, or I can't remember the exact number.
461, 630.
Yeah, 461.
Yes, the total project cost is estimated to be $461,630. Of that, $90,000 is coming from the federal earmark.
All right. And we're talking, or we're discussing 0.2 of a mile?
Yes. The other, we're limited on federal aid roads
Right.
within the city. We've got Dorothy, we've got McMunn, Pontiac Trail and Lake, but those are road commission roads. I think Reynolds Suite, but that's in good shape. So we're limited on the streets that we can put this towards. So we looked at our PACER study that the council adopted and which street was in the lowest rating. McMunn was that. And then we broke it into two sections, hoping that we could afford to do all of McMunn, but obviously that would be over $1 million project based on what this does. So we broke it into two sections, and we're going to start with the Dorothy to McChatty section.
With the truck traffic in that area, I mean, are we looking at a shortened lifespan of that road surface?
Shorter than it already is, or?
Oh, no, I mean, I know it needs repair, but
No,
I'm
we
just
would
saying.
be reconstructing it so that it upholds to the truck traffic better than what it does currently.
Is that like a Class A street then?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're also hoping the staging area for the mills right there, if you can think where I'm talking about, that large gravel, we're hoping to extend the road even a little wider there, and make the road slightly wider, so that gravel parking lot has less of an influence on the existing road that traffic passes now. This is also gonna tie in directly to the road off Dorothy Street that we worked on earlier this year. So now we've taken care of two relatively large, very in poor shape roads now between Dorothy, making a left, left, and then heading north up McMunn to McCabe Street.
Thank you.
So now a mile's worth of road is like $1.8 million? Wow. That's not curb and gutter, that's just crazy. Yeah.
I had some questions regarding the budget. That's going to be one of my other priorities in 2017. You are asking for what tonight?
I am asking for approval to move forward with this. If the council approves it, then we will be bringing a budget amendment for the professional services at the next meeting.
Okay, so we would have a budget amendment.
Yes,
Okay.
because we did not anticipate this expenditure this year. It was brought to us in July by SEMCOG, which is well after the budget was approved. So it's not something that we anticipated when we put the budget together last January, that we would be doing this amount of professional services work.
We have 90,000 earmarked.
From the federal earmark, yes.
So can that be used for the 82 services? Can that be used for that,
No, it has to go towards construction.
towards actual construction?
Yes.
And where's the 82,950 coming from?
The 82,950 will come to us from MDOT as a pass-through from the federal government.
But if we're going to do a budget amendment, the 82,950,
She's meaning it
where's that,
in-house,
where's
right?
that coming from?
Where's that coming from? Major streets. It'll be professional services under major streets, which is what McMunn qualifies for.
Have you decided how you're going to fix the problem in the sewer and water department that's operating at a loss?
Yes, we've already raised rates on the sewer department, and that should help balance things out. And we are reviewing to make sure that the water and sewer rates for 2017 are adequate.
Would we lose the $90,000 if we waited until we worked on the budget for 2017, 2018?
Only if the preliminary design is not done and ready for us to begin construction at the beginning of the next fiscal year. If we don't construct this project in 2017, we will lose the money.
So we have until next September, next October?
Yes, but by doing the preliminary design work, that gets us ready to bid, and we want to be able to bid in approximately February so that we have time during 17 to schedule the project with the construction companies and get on their schedule first.
And then what about the $461,630? That's money that we need to budget for?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, I just can't. Not given the fact that we've got a letter from the state of Michigan with corrective action plan. We've had 3 years where we have spent expenditures have exceeded revenues. At this time, I just can't. I don't have enough information as to where the budget stands. I just don't. That's just me.
What is our, how much money do we have in major streets? That fund, do we know off the top?
Yes, I've got the budget pulled up in front of me. At the end of this fiscal year, if we spend what we anticipated, we have $458,433 in fund balance for major streets. We also have a fund balance in, let me find it. Capital improvement as well. That is approximately $350,000.
When is Act 51 money typically dispersed?
After the first of the year, so
Okay.
roughly in January.
Okay.
And I've been talking with the state and with our accountants on exactly what Act 51 money we're going to get this year, because we received a letter in September stating that it would be less than what they had told us when we did our budget.
But that balance that you had said, that's what's in there now,
Right, that's the
before any
balance that's in there now.
dispersion? Yeah, okay.
I have two questions. So when we had that that water main break by Water's Edge, Bob, how much did that end up costing us?
We had a couple of different projects there, but the first one was approximately $24,000. The second one was about $30,000. So
Okay.
a total between the two, $50,000.
And that was unforeseen, obviously, expenses.
Pardon me,
That
sir?
was unforeseen, obviously not, but absolutely, okay. And that's what I'm getting at, is we never know, and given that we had corrective actions from the state, this is a pretty hefty price tag. I do want to ask you, Lynn, putting together this cost estimate from HRC, did this cost the city anything, just to get an estimate?
Mike, did you charge this?
It might have been an hour or two, yeah.
How much did it cost?
Couple $100.
Okay, all right, I'm not worried about that. But I was just curious.
You know, we've tried to sense the feel for what the council wanted to do on roads. We understand road projects in the city are tough. You gotta designate the difference between county and local roads. Pontiac Trail, Lake Street, county roads, those will be dealt with in a different funding way than these. So here was an opportunity for us to finally start addressing some local streets, and we felt empowered to move forward on this, and that it would be good for our community. And that's why we put this proposal together for the council.
John? I had an opportunity to speak with Doug, and I will tell you, I am extremely impressed with Plant Moran. Doug has answered every phone call. Either Doug or Keith have called me back. And I just think that with respect to the budget, thank you for what you did, but I think Doug just really impressed upon me. Emergency. Isn't it an emergency to amend the budget to do the program that is being proposed? And I didn't talk about this. This was just general discussions a while ago. And the criteria for amending the budget was an emergency, absolutely necessary. And I'm looking at the totality of the circumstances here. Corrective action from the state of Michigan. Never before has the city had a letter like that, but we have it, and we have to deal with it. I don't have a feel for how our revenue is this year, so I don't know whether revenue is going to be higher or lower than what has been projected in the budget. We have a sewer and water department that's operating at a loss, and we're just now correcting the mill on servicing debt. In good conscience, with these facts, I can't approve this unless I have more financial information, maybe at the next meeting, maybe move the budget meeting up to February, and have a good look at the budget. I don't know. I don't know what tax revenue is. I don't know if the revenue coming in from taxes is on schedule. there's just too many unknowns here.
And I totally get that, Maggie. I just want you to understand, when we work on a PASER study, which gives us a scorecard for the conditions of our roads, the next step after that is let's try to start addressing these, and that's what we're trying to do here. Nothing more on that.
That's fine. We, you know, it's whatever they want to do.
Yeah, I
I'm
get that.
just telling you what my vote's going to be. Not at this time. I
I
can't.
just wanted to understand where we were coming from, you know? And
Is the
that
ro-
money
is-
was out there, and Lynn worked very hard to try to get that.
Is the road impassable?
Well, no road is impassable, obviously.
I know I was getting some feedback from Joe from him walking down Hagedorn 3 weeks ago or a month ago, and him bringing back to the council that it's terrible out there. And I've been trying to have, our department's been going out and doing coal patching, which looks nice the week you do it, but 3 weeks later. But I understand your concern here. I'm just trying to state why we brought this to the table.
So, if I could, John, one of the things I would like to see is, I want to be clear. I am not opposed to fixing McMunn. I think it needs it. I've been down that road. It needs it. What I would like to see is a complete proposal for all of our roads. I'm still not sold that there's not ways of doing things more effective by doing patchwork here, complete sections of patchwork here, without having to spend $500,000 on an eighth of a mile. I mean, I'm not saying that's the case for McMunn. I'm not an engineering expert, but there has to be a complete proposal for all of our roads in front of us before I feel comfortable approving something that's going to really hurt our budget. Now, I mean, I'm thinking about, like you brought up Hagedorn, which I brought up before, and thank you for putting the cold patch down. You guys do a great job. Sometimes people throw it down and it's not effective, but the DPW guys, they got it down to a science, how they back over it, really make it a great job. So how do the people on Hagedorn feel when they see their road torn to shreds, but then they drive down McMunn and that's completely brand new road? I mean, I'm just looking at all of the residents. So like I said, I'm not opposed to having this, but I do want to see a complete proposal for all of our roads before we just go in and voting on this much money.
You need to realize that this money doesn't qualify to be used on Hagedorn, though. So
Well, I
that's-
wasn't talking about Hagedorn.
Exactly, we probably would have looked at
Yeah.
Hagedorn.
Right, of course. But we do have, as Lynn mentioned, we do have some time. It's not, doesn't have to necessarily be approved tonight.
I was curious, Mike, what was the rationale for going for a comprehensive rebuild as opposed to looking at something that was lesser than, that we might be able to still use that 82 for the construction aspect of a repair through that section?
That was based on an eyeball test, just looking at it. The first step in preliminary engineering would be to get pavement cores, to see what's actually under there, to see if, if it's a thicker road, maybe you could get away with just milling off 2 inches and putting 2 inches back.
Yeah.
But looking at it, I don't think that's the case.
The PASER study that we've used, we still have the capital improvement, the long-term scheduling thing that we're supposed to be forecasting what our capital improvements for roads that go along with this to submit to the state and all that stuff. So in the pecking order of importance, I understand that this had to meet a criterion to be able to qualify for the federal money, but was this pretty high up in the grander form of our pecking order of what was important?
Yes, this was the worst rated federal aid road in the city,
Okay,
which is why Lynn
all right.
steered us towards this.
It was rated a 3 in the PACER study in
Yeah.
2014.
What, I guess what is what would be the step to take to be able to to garner the information that you need to find out whether or not a more or a less comprehensive repair would be satisfactory to use over there?
Definitely getting pavement cores would give us the information we need.
Do you have a thumbnail on what it cost for?
Be under $2,000.
I mean, it just seems as though that would end up allowing us to pit one against one big project number compared to something that's smaller and still might be effective, and still use this $82,000 that we
But
waited
there-
around for so
If I
long
may,
for.
but just remember, the weight of the trucks that run,
Well, I know that, but it's been there forever. I mean, and those heavy trucks, clearly the base has got to be relatively substantial, wouldn't you think? To take all that truck traffic that it's taken this long. So, I mean, nothing has happened on that road for a long doggone time except for the bridge. So that would be my recommendation, for us to end up trying to discern whether or not there's something lesser than that we might be able to get some effective use out of that money.
It gives us options, it gives us very valid
Precisely,
options. I
yeah.
think that's a really good way to go.
It's
Also,
a
too,
turnaround on
you guys
doing
have all-
something like that.
You all are alluding to it a little bit. I mean, the weights are pretty heavy there. I mean, I'm sure the road has been put together fairly well for all these years to hold up, like Mr. Kibble said, but there's been a lot of increased traffic of trucks and a lot of heavy weight. And before we decide to spend a large amount of money to fix something that I'd kind of like to know myself, what is the real condition of this road, and is there something we can do by talking to the tube mill as well and some of those people that are causing some of the problems? This is gonna come back again.
How long do you think it would take to be able to get that information?
It's kind of busy time of year right now, but by the end of the year, we'd definitely have that info.
Yeah. John?
Mike?
My concern is, I don't know if I want to spend this kind of money for truck traffic, when there's other areas that, at some point, the residents are going to ask, what are we spending money on for the roads? And if we have 0.2 of a mile that we're spending $461,000 on, and the majority of the traffic is going to be trucks that use that road, I don't know if that'd be in our best interest, even though on the Pacer scale, it's a 3. I'm just looking down the road, big picture, when we're trying to convince our residents, hey, we have to fix these roads, but we only have so much money. I think we just have to look more to trying to, I'm just concerned
If
about.
it turns
just that
into
one road.
$80,000 from a fix that's lesser than a complete tear out and rebuild, then you're not talking about $461,000.
No, I agree, but we don't know that, number one. And number two, I gotta be honest, I drive around these roads all over the place in South Lyon, and there's a lot of roads that we need to start looking at, and I'm just,
and the reason why we tried to drive this job was due to the money that, the federal
right, the
grant
90
money.
grand,
And
right?
Lynn, can that be used for any other roads in that?
Only federal aid roads.
Right.
And so
So
McMunn,
that's one reason
Dorothy,
why drove McMunn there.
it's either that or we lose the money. And it will go to another community.
But there is an option to not do the complete overlay, correct? Do-
Yes, but on a 3-rated road, why would you do
All right, I understand there's only a certain amount of areas that this money can be used for funding, but again, I'm going to defer to Bob. How many miles of road do we have?
In the entire city?
Yes,
28.
28 miles of road. Okay, we're
Probably
talking,
a little more now, 31, let's
okay,
say.
we're 31, thank you. We're talking about, what did we say, 2/8 of a mile, or
2/10.
2/10 of a mile for $461,000. $461,000. Now, sitting here, I'm kind of a little bit frustrated that every time we ask for a proposal, we always are offered the Cadillac. I mean, in a perfect world, I want all of our residents to have gold-plated roads, but we have 31 miles of roads that we need to maintain. And we can't do that at $461 a pop. So I think it's time to go back to the drawing board, see what other options we can come up with, where we're not depleting all of our funds.
Could I comment on? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We have 31 miles. 31 miles aren't bad, though,
Yeah, I know.
right? Probably 10 to 12 are bad, when you look at the Pacer study, okay? So it's our job to sit down and try to determine where does this money go. I guarantee you, Joe, if we looked at Hagedorn with no curb or gutter, the shape that road is in, it would be 3 times the cost of this job. to run the length of Hagen. And I'm not, don't kill the messenger here. I'm just trying to explain where the
That proves
road
my
will-
point, is what I'm saying, is that's why we need to look at all the options. And right now, the only option in front of us is 461,000.
Okay, so I guess I'm getting mixed signals, though, from the council, in all due respect. I thought a priority was, let's try to look and do some street repairs in the city. And that's why we brought this in good faith to you guys, not to make you upset, but to try to say this is an option that we can use some money and try to move forward on. That's all. If you guys don't want to do this, this is every bit, you're right, but just try to understand what we were trying to achieve by this proposal.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think you're putting something in front of us because our roads are a priority for our citizens or for our residents. So we need to show that we're taking some type of effort to maintain our roads. And at this point, we really haven't done much of that. So you putting something in front of us is at least an effort, and it's appreciated. So don't think it's not.
It's been 5 years since we've done one road in the city.
There you go.
Yeah.
My point exactly.
That's all
Mike?
we were trying to do,
No,
believe me.
no. And again, it's appreciated. Thanks, Bob. Mike, I have a quick question for you. Earlier, it is Mike, right?
Yep.
Earlier, you did say something about a $2,000 estimate to go back and just kind of get a lay of the land. Is that what you had said?
It'd be
To do
get
core
pavement cores,
samples.
go through the pavement, see how thick it is, see what kind of, what's underneath it.
And, okay, so that would give you a better understanding, and that would possibly change the price for what is actually needed instead of going for the Cadillac?
If, since like Lynn said, it's a rated 3 road,
Right.
typically that is a full remove and replace, which is what this estimate reflects. But just in case you go through there and, you know, if there's an 8 or 9 inch thick road, maybe we just take the top 4 inches off and put 4 inches back.
So I guess I'm just one voice out of 7, but my opinion would be go back and get a $2,000, we'll pay the $2,000, get an estimate, come back to us and see what other viable options we have out there. Lynn, how long do we have until that $90,000 goes away?
If we haven't bid it out by July,
Okay,
to where we can start construction July, August, September, it'll be gone because the fiscal year and the construction season will end before we could do it.
okay. So maybe we tickle that and keep it on the back burner for now, but don't act hastily. I don't think this is something we should jump into tonight and approve because there's a lot of questions and there's things that I think that need to be addressed. But I do think that roads are a priority and it needs to be something that's addressed.
My question for the council, because I'm getting mixed messages, do you want us to put Band-Aids on every road, or do we want to actually fix the roads? Because the direction I'm getting is, we don't want to spend this much money on 0.2 of a mile because it's too much, but this is what it takes to fix roads that are in this bad of shape.
I hear you, but I think what we should do is also get all viable options before we make any decisions. So whether it's a Band-Aid option or the full-blown Cadillac option, I want to see it all before we spend a dime. That's just my opinion, but again, I'm one voice out of 7.
I was wondering, I know that you had a direction to try to stay away from the county aspect. I'm wondering if the county had any money and interest in coupling together with us to try to do any more comprehensive improvement on the Pontiac Trail, 10-mile, whatever a county road was, where we might be able to use our money in conjunction with theirs and get something more comprehensive done, rather than us doing a complete rebuild on our own, for this little quarter of a mile.
We did not speak to Oakland County Road Commission about this project because they were the ones that SEMCOG wanted to give our money to, and their intent was to take it outside the city of South Lyon and use it in other jurisdictions.
Okay.
I am trying to set up a meeting with Oakland County to get on their actual capital improvement plan for Pontiac Trail. Have not been successful in finding a date that we're all available yet, that we can have that meeting. But I'm well aware that Pontiac Trail needs a full reconstruction, but that's not going to happen before the end of when this money is available.
Is there no chance for us to do a lesser than repair on Pontiac Trail? mean, there's got to be some,
In order to do work on Pontiac Trail, it has to be coordinated with the road commission and with tri-party funds. And it has to be scheduled anywhere from a year to 18 months in advance because they will bid it. They will do all of the design work, and we have to be in their capital improvement plan, which has been finalized
And the
back
county-
in
the county
15.
works 3 to 4 years out,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not mistaken. Like,
Yeah,
they're already-
they
they've already
finalized-
got 18 and 19 plans, so as soon as we're looking at Pontiac Trail, folks,
2020.
It is potentially 2019, 2020.
exactly.
So we need some urgency to get that meeting done.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet.
Well, the only, Lynn, I know you're frustrated, but Oakland County's budget was, when they had their budget, approved their budget in the fall, there was an increase in their budget. Their budget was actually, the Oakland County Road Commission's budget was actually increased.
To make room for the projects that were already scheduled.
That's right, because we're not there. We're not at the table with these people. And it's unfortunate for you because you're stepping into the way things have sort of been handled in the past. In the past, South Lyon sat as an island and didn't go out and make those contacts, did not get involved in those organizations, did not show up at the various whatever needed to be shown up where you can network. Lyon Township is at everything, absolutely everything in this county. And the benefits are coming back to them. So it's going to take time to get into that network and get the contacts and get the networking done. It's not because of you, it just was never done. But this is what you have to do. And once again, talking about the doggone budget. You know, a corrective action plan from the state of Michigan does not put you on the path to an emergency financial manager, but it is raising the flags at the Department of Treasury. That's the problem with this letter. Other communities got it too, but there's a problem when this letter gets issued. Do we have money in the fund balance to cover our expenses? Yes. But we can't sit there and drain our rainy day fund. We have to get back to fiscal responsibility. And all I'm asking is, tell me where the money is going to come from. I want to know how the operating loss, which is over $200,000 in the sewer and water department, how that is being taken care of. I want to know if the mill that we just increased is sufficient to cover and service the debt on the bond. That hasn't been answered yet.
can we talk about the roads? This
So
is an
excuse me,
agenda
please,
item.
excuse me, please.
This has
don't-
nothing to do with
No,
the
don't,
agenda
please,
item.
because I'm talking about the budget.
John,
Please
would you
don't be
please
rude.
help us out here? Crying
John.
out loud.
Wait, just take a breath.
No,
Everybody take
John,
a breath.
I
Take a
would-
breath, Maggie, for a second. Take a breath, Glenn. All
Yeah.
right?
So these
Rephrase
issues,
it.
excuse me, but these issues with the budget play an integral role on how you fund anything in this city, including the roads. Until I see how these issues with the budget are getting resolved, I can't sit here and approve money for roads. That's why I'm asking, is it an absolute emergency? There's something far more important that needs to be resolved. Get these budget issues under control. Let's find out where the money is, where we stand today, and I might be willing to make a different decision regarding this proposal 30 days from now, when I have more financial information. But not to address the budget would be derelict in my duties.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we table the proposal from HRC for the McMunn
Postpone.
Street, or let me strike that and start over again. Make a motion that we postpone the proposal from HRC for the preliminary design work for McMunn Street until we have a better understanding what the condition of McMunn Street is actually in.
I'll second that.
Are you telling us to move forward?
Well, that presumes that we're going to pay for the,
We want to know, yeah, we want to know I want to know if it's option A or option B. So that's my motion.
Just to clarify, though, I'm sorry if I interrupted anybody.
that's fine.
So, Mike, you said it was roughly a $2,000 cost. I just want to make sure because I don't want you to come back and be like, "Oh, it's just kidding. It's 10,000."
No, all right.
Okay.
Not to exceed 2,000.
It's not to exceed 2,000. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's John, if I may, that's an excellent point, because one of the things that gives me heartburn is, I think it was a year and a half ago, where we had a request to look at the Dorothy Street parking lot, just to say, hey, what can be done? And before you know it, we get a bill for $1,500. So in this estimate in front of us, their costs are $82,950. Now, I realize you're not going to do anything for free, but you basically get all of our engineering work. So my personal opinion is it would be nice in the future, now I know that's naive, to say, hey, out of 82,000, we're going to do you a solid, and, you know, we're not going to charge you an arm and a leg, but that's my personal opinion.
So we have a motion and we have a
We have a
second.
motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I do have a question, though, towards the funds that will be spent towards the second part of this, and that would be to find out what we really are working with. I mean, we don't want to go in and do major surgery, heart surgery, if the heart doesn't have to be replaced.
Well, right now, we don't have the funds budgeted for the $2,000 surveys, and I just heard that we're not willing to amend without an emergency, so we're sort of in a catch-22.
I get where everybody's coming from, but we lose the $90,000, but we spend 400. I mean, so I'd like to see a little more responsibility on our end if we're gonna do that, so we know exactly what we're getting, that's all.
Then I think I have money in local.
There's not money in major unless you're not doing some of the stuff that you budgeted to do in major streets.
I know we're tight on watching everything we're doing, but
Well, from a business perspective, I mean, if you have the potential for HRC for 82,000, we give you so much business. Can you do this without charging us, or is that a ridiculous question?
I can talk to Jesse about that.
Yeah, thank
That
you.
would be appreciated. Thank you.
And then let Lynn know, and then Lynn, to clarify, sorry, Jonathan, taking the realms here. You do have authority up to $5,000, so that, so to say that you don't have authorization is
No, but if it's not in the budget, and we're running tight, as Bob said, on the budget, it would have required a budget amendment.
Yeah, well, we give you that authority to make those decisions if it's less than $5,000. So hopefully you can work with Mike, get it for free, and it won't be an issue. Thank you.
Hi, Amber King, 791 Westbrook. I think this might have been mentioned earlier, but we're not talking about it now, so I'm not sure. Is it possible to go to the tube mill, since this is their road that they operate, and say, hey, here's the deal. We've got 90,000 we can work with for free, but this is what it's going to cost. This benefits you. This is your road. We are not willing to shell out $500,000 to fix your road. However, if you guys are willing to throw in whatever, makes sense, whether it's the budget itself dictates it, or you just think that it's reasonable, maybe they'd be willing to throw in some money. It's their road, it's their benefit, so.
It's kind of the point that I said.
could I comment on that?
Right,
The
but
one
then
that said that, it was like, I agree with that. I mean, the truck traffic, to me, it's a great business. We respect them tremendously. They bring an awful lot to this town, but they also tear up the roads with those heavy weights of the trucks.
yeah, I think
And if
it's
we're
worth
going to
it.
have to spend the money to fix a problem that's been a long-term problem and it's getting worse, if we don't fix it, and we know we're gonna have to fix it, it would be sure nice to ask for a little bit of help in a partnership with them maybe. I don't know if it ever has been. I don't know. In my end, I don't know. So I think we need to dot all the i's and cross all the t's and underline things and dig a hole with a cord instead of doing a little bit of an eyeball test, which I don't disrespect you because I'm in the industry too and I know what that means. But I think I'd like to know more of what we're getting if we're going to spend that kind of money to get it done, and we know, that's all. So, and I think that's a very valid question.
Mr. Mayor, Bob wanted to say something.
No comment.
Never mind. I saw you earlier. Sorry.
I just wanted to say, it's a public road, folks.
Yeah.
School buses drive down it, cars drive down it, I run down it, bikes run down it.
There's a whole
Yeah, the
subdivision right at the end
Lot
of
of
it. I
cars.
mean,
The
you know.
mill uses that road too, but it also uses Dorothy Street, it also uses McCaddy Street, and it uses all of McMunn Street. It uses Pontiac Trail and Lake Street.
Yeah, we're well aware of
I'm not
that one.
trying to be difficult. What we were trying to do out of the goodness of our heart, do something.
Bob, you're missing the point. We're not disrespecting you at all. I mean,
I'm
I
not-
think you
I'm not
bringing,
worried about me
I think you
personally. I
bringing
just
this
want
to
you to
us, Bob,
understand.
wait, Bob, I think you bringing this to us is well needed. You know, I mean, because we need to be aware of what the conditions are, and we respect your decision, respect that what you're saying to us, and bringing us to the
So, you
table.
know, when you have a Pazer study, the next step after a Pazer study, John, is you look at it and then you start making educated guesses or decisions. That's what a Pazer study takes the guess out of it. And it says, okay, here's the money we have available in this region, we can now move, and let's take this to the council. That was it. But I understand the concern about the funding, I do understand that. But if we wait, which we will, and we're fine with it, but just rest assured that 2017 will bring no road repairs to the city. And that's fine if you guys are fine with it.
We can't afford it.
Okay, that's fine.
Mr. Mayor, Carl Richards, 390 Lennox. Just to let you know, I've lived on McMunn Street the bulk of my life, starting at 12 years old, okay? And I've seen many improvements that have gone on it, okay? Since the bridge, which is 6 years ago, I've been working on this project. The tube mill knows me, and I've sent some things through to them, okay? But I never got the last two parts through to them, okay? And, but my whole scope of the plan for repairing McMunn Street is gauged differently than what you got in front of you. And my plan comes out 3 times higher from what you're seeing tonight. However, it includes sewer and storm sewer, sanitary, because I know where the sanitary is bad. But my plan was based on the tube mill paying 1/3 of the total cost and a special assessment district being set up through Oakland County, okay? Whether that can happen without an emergency, I don't know that factor, emergency and non-emergency. Maybe that's the criteria. I never did that, okay? That was basically how all my concept of the financing has gone on. Remember how they did the bridge? Everybody within a 3,000-foot radius had to pay a portion, a one-time assessment. This would be a little bit different, okay, because it'd be a lot more money. Anyway, moving on, the gentleman from HRC here, this time I'm willing to share everything I know and the things that I don't know, okay, with the HRC people for the benefit of the city, and Bob also. I think Bob knows I've been working on this off and on for a number of years. Anyway, I'm just letting you know formally tonight, and I hope we can move forward.
Thank you, Carl.
Okay. We on number 4?
Yep. Consider approval of a final site plan for the Thomasville development.
I would actually turn this over to start to the developer, Lorenzo. Speak to the council.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Lorenzo Cavalier, 30078 Shaner, Suite 300, Warren, Michigan. Here tonight for what hopefully can be the final vote to move this project forward. The Thomasville detached condo development. I do have a copy of the city attorney, Tim Wilhelm's memo to council regarding a couple of items, which if there are any questions on them, I think that they can easily be discussed, hopefully, and decided on, so we can move forward with this project. I am here to answer any questions or address anything that the city attorney may bring to light.
Well, have you provided the cross reciprocal easement?
Yes, it has been provided. There was a document that was provided to Tim at the end of last week. There was one comment that he had regarding it, and that was sent to him in a red line format, which is one sentence.
Right. Well, I talked to Tim prior to the meeting, and my read on what he was saying, he's not comfortable that this satisfies what we're looking for, so.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I could just, I've not had an opportunity to do a full formal review of the documents that were provided on Friday afternoon. They were also updated this afternoon. I've not done a formal review. I haven't had a chance to really look at these and figure out what they do and whether they're sufficient for the city.
If I may, I think that the intent here is very clear, that there's a cross-access agreement that we would agree with, that the Thomasville development would agree to, so Colonial Acres could get to 11 Mile, and Colonial Acres would agree to, so that Thomasville residents could get to North Lafayette through Colonial Acres. I had asked if there was what type of instrument we should use for this. What's Tim's preference or the city's preference? And we were instructed to draft what we thought would be acceptable and submit it. Regardless of who's going to sign the document, or if the document's 2 pages or 4 pages, at the end of the day, it's a cross-access easement agreement. It coincides with what police and fire have asked for. It's a fairly standard scenario that's very common. It's not a controversial issue. We're trying to move this project forward so we can get started, and we have every intent to work with Tim on the wording of this. There aren't that many ways to wordsmith this thing. They can come across our road, we can go across their road, signed by 2 property owners.
I don't see
I know it
anything-
simplifies it.
There's
but
I haven't seen anything that's from Colonial Acres that says that they're in agreement with this language.
That's almost, that question begs, there is no document that is going to be recorded without both signing it. Once Colonial
There's no
Acres.
letter, there's no affidavit saying that we complied to the idea, the concept of this, anything. I mean, you filled in their name and their pertinent information. They haven't said word one about this.
Once Colonial Acres says, yes, it's okay, is that an item for another agenda, for another meeting to come here to say Colonial Acres said okay?
Yeah, to me it is.
Then that's kind of setting a precedent for a lot more meetings for every single development that comes through here. If all we're talking about is a cross-access easement agreement.
Colonial Acres may not appreciate all the movement of more traffic going through their property, though.
We don't have too many more
No,
developments.
then we have no development.
I have a question.
Then we have no development at that
Why
point.
has it taken so long to get this?
Right.
I mean, this project was approved in stages over the last year, and you're coming now for the final approval, but there is a major component of this whole planned development, the easement, that has not been agreed to, it hasn't been discussed. I mean, this is just a proposal that was submitted to our city attorney on Friday,
That's correct.
and Colonial Acres hasn't even seen this. So essentially, what we have to do is we have to review it, but then it still has to go to Colonial Acres. They still have to review it, see if they're going to give the easement, And if they do sign off on it, then this would be a major component that would have finally been done. The problem is, you're giving this to us on the 11th hour, and you're asking us to approve it, I'm assuming tonight, without this document being even addressed by Colonial Acre, but this has been a project that's been going on for over a year. Why has it? I'm just curious, why are we now at the 11th hour and we don't even have this addressed by Colonial Acres yet?
I actually took this project over earlier in 2016.
Okay.
And it, through documents that I had, basically spelled out that this project was a lot further along than it actually was. And the last time that I was in front of the board, we were actually taking care of housekeeping items that should have actually been taken care of before. So there were some delays here that were out of my control. That letter getting to Tim, yeah, I'll agree that him getting it on Friday. What I'm asking for is, if we look at the intent, does council look at all the legal language of every single document of all the developments that happen in the community?
I do.
If the answer
yeah.
is yes, that you look at it, at every legal document and all the language in there, then there's another meeting. So
Lorenzo, I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
So I just want to clarify, did you speak with Colonial Acres at all? So is there any indication that they're interested in the easement? Because
Absolutely there is, because the family member of Colonial Acres gets to cash a big check when they sign on this document. That's the bottom line.
my previous experience when I worked for a different city and I used to write these, the other side, both parties, this didn't go through until both parties signed it. So it's not like we could just, I understand what you're saying. I see where you're going with this. So if Colonial Acres is okay with this and they've given you the heads up or through email, through phone calls or something of that nature to indicate that they are fine with an easement, then I don't see any problem with us just reviewing it and going forward with this instead of delaying it further.
Thank you. And I'm not looking for, I've done several contingent approvals, not if it's contingent on 15 things, but if it's contingent on one item or two. But I appreciate your
I
consideration.
do have one question for you, though. The easement is to run with the land. However, is there supposed to be a termination of the easement in here, too?
Not for runs with the land.
No, no, it would be something that would be a recorded instrument and would be on the deed for every single unit.
Okay, just want to double check. Thank you.
Well, Lorenzo, you said yourself, without that document being signed, you have no development, really, in a sense. We have to have this easement taken care of, and it has to be agreed upon by both parties. That's a little thing, but it's a big thing.
You're absolutely correct.
So.
It's a very big thing.
And we do have to look at that because we don't have that in front of us. We really don't. This is a big, thick amount of paper here, and we have the question, but we don't have the document telling us that it's been approved by both parties. That's
Correct.
all.
And I would, that's something that I would work, closely with, obviously, with
I don't have a problem moving forward with a project if documentation is followed up upon, because if it's not, then it's not going through.
Is the master deed and the bylaws addressing the emergency access drive and gate, is that all square?
Yes.
John, I have a comment. So, yeah, there's some loose ends, but I will absolutely not vote to approve this unless I have written buy-off from Colonial Acres. The residents of Colonial Acres, I have many friends there who, they were concerned about this development, and I know it got worked out. They have obviously senior living community, and this is a nice transition. It's not the houses that maybe they were nervous about. But before I will vote, I need to make sure there's absolutely 100% certainty in buy-off from Colonial Acres before I'll approve this. Thank you.
I actually could do it contingent on Colonial Acres signing it, but not without Tim having an opportunity to have reviewed the language in it yet.
With all due respect to Tim, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for your work. I know this is hard work. These things don't get done right away. I'm a real estate attorney, so I can appreciate the time. Sometimes these projects take 2 and 3 years. Carmine, when I was on the planning commission, I remember that this file came up, and there were a lot of restrictions that I had requested. I did not see all of them necessarily in the documents. I think one of them, for example, was to no basketball courts were, maybe I'm wrong, basketball courts were permitted to be constructed. Basketball hoops were not to be attached to the structures of the place of the actual house. No dog houses were permitted to be built in the back. I see where there was a dog run in here, but I think that was also something, a structure like that was not permitted in. There were some other restrictions that we had put in. I don't know if all those restrictions got put into the restrictive part of the document. If, maybe you might have to go back to my minutes.
Maggie, was swing sets one of them as well?
Yeah, swing sets were another one, no swing sets.
Yes,
Sandboxes were not
Mayor,
permitted.
members of council, I'm Carmen Aventini, the planning consultant for the city, and there was a whole laundry list of items that were brought up at the meeting. And then when this went through the review process, the final review process, the planning commission picked out the ones that they felt were pertinent, that they thought would be appropriate for this. Some of them did make it, and there were others that they felt were overly restrictive.
Carmen, can you give some insight on maybe which ones were left and which ones were taken out? Because yeah.
There were, that was a pretty long list. There were, I'd have to look at the document again and go through it. There was a request that they not be allowed to have dogs, I think was one of them. And the planning commission said, no, that's not fair. We can't deny the people there the same rights as others. One of the big concerns, too, of the residents that live next door, one of the big concerns is they did not, because it's a senior community, they did not want to see this development really be focused on families with a lot of children. And based on the design of the project and looking at Lexington Place as a comparable in terms of lot sizes and the type of units, virtually 100% of the units that were sold in Lexington Place were to retirees. I was able to get Roberts and Brothers to give me some information on that. So it's anticipated that this project would be similar, that there would be few or none with, families with a lot of children and so forth. So that really wasn't a huge concern that the Planning Commission had. So when they looked at the different items that they had to worry about, they took that into consideration too. But I don't have that list right in front of me. I would have to go back and look at it again.
I would like to see that personally, because I know that at the meeting, when this was brought up, there was a lot of residents from Colonial Acres, and they were looking for, I think the way it was sold to everybody was, you have Trotter's Point, and then you're going to have this development, and you have Colonial Acres. This was supposed to be a nice, smooth transition, and that was a big point, a really big point. So I want to add that to my list. For me to get a vote on this, I want to see what was in there and what was taken out.
Yeah, I want a little clarification on that, because I do remember that meeting, and it was contentious. You have a community, Colonial Acres, wonderful community, fabulous individuals that are there. I know many residents that are there. I see them at least once a week in various places. And this is still very fresh in their mind. They have not forgotten this. So I think what they want is an assurance that this will be a community that is compatible with their lifestyle, because this development butts up to their development. So they don't want to have this clash of cultures when, they've been there for decades, and then all of a sudden this new, they're going to have to live through the construction, it's fine, but they're also going to have to live with the residents that buy these units. And that's why those restrictions were put there. As to the mutual easement, do you know who you spoke with at Colonial Acres? Because I have to disqualify myself from voting on anything that involves Colonial Acres. So the mutual easement agreement is your right, counsel. These are fairly basic kind of documents. There's no doubt about it. It's just, it's an egress document. It runs with the land, so it doesn't terminate. That's why it runs with the land. That's basic real estate law. But I can't vote on anything with Colonial Acres, so I'll have to disqualify myself.
Mayor, if I could add too, this is really, you've got two items on the agenda. One is the final site plan, and the second is the PUD agreement. Obviously, it's at your discretion, but you do have the ability to, if you decide to, you could always approve the plan and make it conditioned upon approval of the condo documents, the development agreement, I'm sorry. And you could always table that and have that come back, so we're down to one item instead of two, if you're happy with the plan, the way that the plans come through. There's been a lot of time, obviously, spent on the plan itself. And the development agreement is where we address the operational type issues. Just one other point, too. When this project first came through, and the fire department, police department, and myself included, we all said these roads have to connect. We're not going to put a barrier up there. The representation was made by the owner of the property. It was my understanding it's the owner of the Colonial Acres development, the land, that sold this property. And there was a full representation that these easements would be able to be put in place. So,
Yeah, but that representation would have been in the, okay, so you start with the transaction from the beginning. In the beginning, and I did not represent the buy-sell on this, but in the beginning, you had some of Colonial Acres land being sold to Thomasville. But any agreement that they would have had to give a mutual access easement agreement in the buy-sell in terms of the real estate documents, that is not sufficient to, at least I believe, is not sufficient to evidence their intent to actually execute the document. So, I mean, I understand that they may have agreed upon doing that when they sold the land to them and said, yeah, we'll give you whatever easements that you need in order to get your development off the ground. But I don't know if that, to me, I would litigate that a little bit, and I would say I just don't know if that is sufficient evidence to indicate to me that Colonial Acres clearly intended to execute a mutual easement agreement, which they haven't even seen. I know they haven't seen this.
I'm just talking from a purely planning perspective, Mayor,
Yeah.
that was always the intent. It was always clearly
It'll be easier
understood.
to get their signature on this,
Right.
so.
I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to get involved in those details, but in terms of the plan itself and the intent behind the plan, that was always an absolute, that you had to provide the access through there. And I know the fire chief and police chief were both in support of that also.
Are you satisfied with the homes that are being built? Do you like the look?
Yeah, the tricky thing with the development like this is they come in with concepts of what they're going to look like, but in actuality, when they come in with construction plans, that's where the real review goes. It has to meet the intent of the quality of the type of housing that they're showing in the elevations. There may be some minor changes here and there, so the challenge you've got here is that it's a small lot community. I think the big thing, which was an item that you expressed on Lexington Place, is we want to make sure that we have variety in the units. We don't want every unit to look like the other unit.
And
So that's something we're going to focus
is
on.
that language in here? Because this was a big document, so I did not get through everything to make sure that there was going to be that staggered variety in this development. Is that language in here?
Yeah, it's
Thoughts of the entire-
anti-monotony. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
Tim, what's your thought?
So I want to back up just a little bit. So this is the fourth and final step in a plan development approval. So you've got the final site plan approval before you. Included in the agenda note are the conditions on page 2 that were imposed on the recommendation by the planning commission. One is to resolve the access easement and make it a through street from Lafayette to 11 Mile. That would be, going to that point, if there were a contract provision related in obligating the Colonial Acres property owner to sign off or provide some sort of easement, that would have been helpful evidence to look at and know that they're committed to signing some sort of easement. I've not seen anything like that. I've had some indication that that may be the case. I think this issue on access is much more about timing than it is about substance. I don't think this is an earth-shattering type document, but I've not had a chance to provide it to you. I didn't get a chance to review it before tonight. It's much more about timing than it is substance. I don't think we're looking to, cause problems for Mr. Cavalier. It's really, I don't recommend that the council move forward with a vote on the plan development agreement until we know that cross-access easement or mutual access is resolved and taken care of in a way that is acceptable to the city. So that's the first part. And the other one is the master deed, which is, I think we need to go back and look at where some of the restrictions came up and what happened to I don't recall what happened to those. But we'll have to go back and review that.
If I may, Tim, you have received a document that is signed by Colonial Acres saying that they will work with the Thomasville development regarding cross-access easement.
I'm not I don't remember seeing anything like that, and if I did, I didn't recognize
Okay,
it as such.
there is a document that states that, and to your point regarding were those items that were in front of planning which kudos on your memory, because you are right, there was something in there about a basketball net and the dog houses. The very next item here has the plan development agreement in it, and that speaks to all those things. So if we're going to talk about reading and seeing exactly what's in here, that's all in the packet, is it not, Tim?
Yeah, it's all in. The plan development agreement is not in I'm fine with it as is. I think we do need to chase down some of these specific conditions, because those type things I don't think are in the plan development agreement. They would be in the master deed or bylaws.
But we worked on the document together with red lines going back and forth, and unless I'm mistaken, I pretty much accepted every red line that you had in that document. We discussed some of them, but what am I to do if I meet with the city and I meet with the planner and I meet with you and we discuss everything, and then it goes into a red line document, and then we go back and forth with that document, and I'm kind of at the trough now, and I have accommodated all the requests based on those meetings. So there is no basketball nets, there are no dog houses, and they're in this document that's here for council to have reviewed.
Can you point it out in the
I
document?
looked at the restrictions. I'm looking at the restrictions, and the document is,
Those are not in the plan development agreement.
I didn't
And
get all the
while,
way through.
while I appreciate all the accommodation from Mr. Cavalier, you were fully aware that this agreement had to come for final approval to the city council. You're hearing comments from city council that they have concerns about what's in this document and how this development will be restricted.
And I understand that that's what tonight is for, is to talk about, to talk about this, and I don't have a red line in front of me, but
I can assure the council, the basketball hoop and the doghouse are not in the plan development agreement.
Actually, Tim, they are.
Are they?
Just
Where?
saw them, I'm finding them again.
You sure it's not the master deed?
It is, I don't think this is the master deed, let me check.
what's the square footage of the backyard? Carmine, are they allowed to have below-ground swimming pools? Are those backyards going to be that big for an in-ground swimming pool?
I'd be surprised, I don't think they're ever.
Well, I'm looking at page 19.
You're correct, Tim, they're in the master deed, page 19, section, where did I see it? I saw the basketball ground, goals.
I didn't get all the way through this, but the swimming pool,
Just saw it a couple of minutes ago.
It looks like some of it is on page 18 of the master deed, under section 11.2 of dwellings. So one of the concerns that was raised is not having decks. So patios would be allowed, but due to the small lots, decks would not be allowed. And there's some provision regarding, we may have to ask for a change to the pool and the deck language contained in the master deed.
On page 18, under 11.3 in the master deed, it talks about, without express written approval of the board, you can't have awnings, newspaper holders, walls, basketball backboards. And there's another section. And, yes, Mike just pointed out, on page 23, in section 11-18 aesthetics, at the top of the page, second line down, no basketball courts or hoops shall be allowed either stand up or attached to a structure.
Yeah, pools, I think you gotta deal with the pools. That was another restriction.
For the pools, it allows in-ground pools only. Where did I see that?
Yeah, that's on page 19.
Yeah.
I didn't think the property was that big in the back that you could put an in-ground pool. Or you're gonna have variances. I can't imagine anyone wanting to live next door to somebody with a pool.
And
I don't know.
Tim, didn't you say there's a deck concern that needs to be addressed as well?
Yeah, so in the, it would be, bear with me one moment. So in the plan development agreement, page 10, paragraph 13, actually going to page 11. Item J at the bottom of page 11, raised decks are prohibited. On-grade patios, subject to applicable laws, ordinances, regulations, codes, and standards shall be permitted.
Well, it just sounds like there's too many unanswered questions here. I mean, we don't have anything signed by Colonial Acres. We got to deal with the deck, possibly pools. So I'd like to make the motion to postpone this. I want to make sure I'm saying it right. The approval of final site plan for Thomasville development.
To our next meeting.
Till the next meeting, yes.
I'll second that.
Further discussion, I will be making the same motion for the next agenda item as well.
Aye.
Number 6, consider approval of PUD agreement for Thomasville development. I will make the motion to postpone the approval of the PUD agreement for Thomasville development until our next scheduled meeting.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
If I may, I have a question for council. What is my next step with this document so that we're not in this situation?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
No,
Next,
between now and 2 weeks from now, how do I know what is acceptable and what is not?
Well, Tim and Carmine are gonna get together and they're gonna look at the minutes regarding the restrictions and just make sure that the restrictions that were requested by the planning commission are in. Then they're gonna take a look at whether or not the swimming pool, should be included in there as an item. The third thing is the easement. Do you know who you spoke with at Colonial Acres?
Yes.
Who?
The original owner and developer of Colonial Acres.
Who?
is the owner of, Tom Schroeder's wife, her family was the owner of.
Okay, she doesn't own the property.
No, but her mother has the authority to sign on behalf of.
But she does not own the property.
No, that's correct.
That's right. The
Yes.
owner needs to approve it, not the daughter.
Well, the documents have gone back. If there was,
I will make sure that this document gets to where it needs to get to tonight.
perfect. Okay, thank you. I understand. Thank you.
Consider approval by Kiwanis Club for the use of the Historic Village Depot grounds for the annual Christmas tree sale event.
It should be consider approval of Kiwanis Club, not by. It's a typo on the agenda.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. A little bit lighter note tonight. So every year we ask the council that.
Who are you?
Phil Wypert, 135 North Lyon. Secretary of Kiwanis. Thank you. Anyway, every year we do ask the city for permission to use McCaddy Park for the purpose of selling Christmas trees. The funds are stay in the community. We always repair the park and take care of it. We buy the tree for Cool Yule and the tree lighting, which is on order. It's hard to believe with this good weather that it's coming, but the trees arrive in less than 2 weeks, and we're asking for use to use the park. So hopefully it'll be.
I'll make that motion.
Can I make one thing? Can you make it contingent upon getting the city's correct address on the insurance certificate?
Also, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, also, the normal language that we normally see on these certificates is not there. I'm not sure why. It would be the city as an additional insured and all of its officials, et cetera, volunteers.
Can I see it?
It's the same insurance we get every year. But
All right, I'll make the motion that we grant the Kiwanis Club permission to sell the Christmas trees at McCaddy Park, provided that they get the right certificate of insurance to the city.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
thank you. I'll work on that.
Thank you, Phil. You guys do great work.
Consider approval of the first reading of Housing Commission Ordinance Amendment.
Okay, Mayor Gallus and council members, so this is the first reading of an ordinance amendment for the Housing Commission in Chapter 34, so it's Article 6, I'm sorry, of Chapter 34. This is the precursor to asking you to execute a quitclaim deed, transfer or quitting any claim the city may have in the remaining Housing Commission property at the end of Washington Street to the Housing Commission. That has been clarified, so the ordinance you have requires the city's name be on it. There's an amendment to the state law that says housing commissions are separate public bodies that have legal existence of their own, so that requirement is no longer needed. This is the first step, and we're also pulling out and repealing the 2012 amendments that dealt with a purchasing policy, which HUD had some problems with, and they've since adopted their own internal policies. So this is to authorize the RAD, so they can move forward with that. I'll be asking you next week for a second reading and present a quitclaim deed, and then it's also some cleanup of the ordinance.
Make a motion that we approve the first reading of the ordinance to amend Chapter 34, Article 4, the City of South Lyon's Code of Ordinances by repealing sections 34-87 through 34-91, amending section 34-84.
I will second that long motion.
Motion of second, all in favor?
Aye.
Consider approving traffic control orders 16-01, 16-02.
Yes, apparently I had some success in getting at least a draft out of TIA as to traffic studies for both the Knolls and Glen Meadows. And pursuant to that traffic study, as the designated traffic engineer for the city, I am recommending for the Knolls the addition of 2 stop signs at Kestrel Ridge and North Mill Street. There currently is an existing stop sign that is under traffic control order for northbound Mill Street at Kestrel Ridge. What the traffic study recommended was making that intersection a 3-way stop. Traffic control order number 16-01 would do that, and I'm recommending council's approval.
Mr. Mayor?
traffic controller, I'm sorry, would you like to address that one right now?
No, did I interrupt? I apologize.
Well, I was going to speak to 1602, but
Oh,
I can do it in whatever order you
I was
would like.
excited to see this happening, so I wanted to, I was a little quick, I'm sorry, please.
Oh, that's okay. 1602 is for the Glen Meadows complex. Those streets have already been dedicated. Most of the signs that are addressed in items 1 through 4 are currently existing signs, and we, subsequent to street dedication, we just did the traffic study to make sure that signs were appropriate. The one change recommended by the Traffic Improvement Association traffic engineer was item number 3, where it says erect a stop sign on southbound Glen Meadows at Norchester. That currently is a yield sign. The engineer in the traffic study recommended a stop sign. I concur with that recommendation. The change is due to sight distance to the east from that intersection. So I'm also recommending approval of traffic control order 1602.
Thank you, and I apologize, I didn't mean to cut you off, you had a long pause in between there. No,
I
wanted to
was
say-
just taking a breath.
No, I wanted to say that, I remember when this came up, when Peter was here, and I think he was actually asked about number 3. And, Chief, you said you were gonna look into it, and of course, you stuck to your word, and not only did you look into it, you found us 3 other ones to fix as well. And, you know, I just want to say, this really, I know this seems kind of, I don't say small, but it seems like in the scheme of things, not that big, but this is really important. I think this really hits me personally, because I think of all the kids, especially in Glen Meadows subdivision, then all the kids back in the Norchester, Winchester area, there's so many children back there, that this is great. And, you know, one of the things that I always get that bothers me is when red tape gets in the way, and it says, okay, we can't do this because we need a year to study something. Well, it wasn't quite a year. It was a lot shorter, and you got it done. So I just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I'll make the motion then that we approve traffic control orders 16-01 and 16-02.
I'll support.
Motion and support, all in favor?
Aye.
Hey, Lloyd, could you lean on TIA a little bit to see if they could speed up their review on the truck situation?
I've already done my half. The other half is up to somebody else.
Nice job, Chief. Very nice job.
Consider approval of a permit for the Cool Yule and associated road closures.
Same drill as last year, basically. The road closure request from 5:30 to 6:15. You have approval from Chief Collins. Recommend?
I'll make the motion that we approve the requested road closures for the Cool Yule Parade on December 3rd, 2016. You want it from 5:30 to 6:15? Or do you want it?
I would like the road closure to extend to 6:30, just to be sure that in case of a late start or some unanticipated problem that we are covered.
All right, so from 5:30 PM to 6:30 PM.
I'll second. And I do have a question, John, if that's appropriate timing. Bob, I know last year Cool Yule was put on by kind of a group of people. Are you taking the lead on this project?
I'm representing the city at the Cool Yule committee meetings, and it's become a city event. It really was a city event in the past because of using the city's insurance. The DDA had no real involvement last year. The chamber decided not to coordinate it.
Okay, because I wanted to and I know this is the road closure, but I figured this would be appropriate time to ask, given that I am asking about Cool Yule. Last year, I took my grandma to the Cool Yule, and we were fortunate to see the carolers and the just the whole show, Santa and the parade. and it was a wonderful time. I just wanted to ask and see if you're going to have the same
same
everything
type of
going on? Yep.
activities. There are a few more activities, more entertainment, and an entertainment schedule at the tent this year.
Because they had caroling and
Yes.
in the church, and it was okay.
What they're doing this year is for the activities that normally take place from early morning through the afternoon before the parade in a lot of different locations. They're centralizing them. They're getting, I believe it's an 50 by 100 foot tent, same size that we use for the farmers market in Pumpkin Fest, that will be in, I believe, the Veterans parking lot or the Joff Street parking lot. It's going to be a Veterans. And they're going to have heaters, and they're combining a lot of the different events under that tent. So rather than having to run around town to do the gingerbread house making or a lot of the different crafts or different things that have taken place at the VFW, the different churches, other locations through town, they're combining it all into one area so that hopefully all of them will get more foot traffic that way. They're also doing additional entertainment under the tent before the parade, and then the parade will go, and then the normal events at the historic village will take place.
Because my vision is, I mean, it seems like this, the Cool Yule is, as I mentioned, wonderful. I mean, it's just really the time of year and all the activities. But it does seem like it's mostly South Lyon and the Lyon Township area that participates. I would like to see this eventually evolve where even more people from out of town get exposure, so it draws people in and they really see how wonderful and beautiful we can have our city around this time of year. So I don't know if there's a way of maybe advertising it outside of this. I'm just talking long term, maybe not this year, but long term, somehow advertising it outside of our city, networking with other chambers in the area just to get the word out, because I really think this is one of our best activities during the whole year.
We're definitely going to be working on more sponsorship, partnership packages for all the events that take place in and around the downtown for the future. So yes, getting the word out more
Okay,
is the goal. The other thing I think we need to do is all of us thank Kathy Swan for her chairing this committee, and she's done a great job, and there's a great committee.
Absolutely. That and Pumpkin Fest as well.
So can you script the weather like last year? So when it was during the parade and it was coming up, it was like just normal, and then about 20-mile-an-hour winds kicked up and the sleet started flying and Santa showed up. You know, I mean, it was almost, you couldn't have got it any better for the kids. I mean, that was how it was last year. I was standing up there.
We'll work on that weather.
We also, another question again, is the key. Santa.
The key was discovered.
Oh, perfect.
John, that was one of your first events, if I recall.
The key was discovered.
It's the mayor.
Besides holding up part of the structure and passing the key out because the wind was so strong.
Yes. Last meeting, it was reported that they found the key.
Perfect. So we have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I agree. It's a great event. I think this thing could really, no pun intended, blow. You know, I mean, with the wind, the run, everything. You know, people run for everything. Cool Yule running and the parade's getting bigger. You know, great event. Absolutely. Hey.
Well, if there are any questions, I think you received a report. Open for questions.
I have a question, but I don't know if it's appropriate at this time or later. It was pertaining to the St. Joseph Catholic Church sign. And maybe, Carmine, maybe you can speak to this. I just wanted to know, how large is this sign?
As I recall, it's 50 square feet, which is what's allowed in the ordinance.
Okay.
And then the electronic message area is a third.
I'm sorry?
Approximately, is 1/3 of the sign area. So it meets ordinance requirements, and the other ordinance requirement that it had to be approved by Planning Commission. And the intent behind that was more for signs that were going to be located in residential districts, closer to residential districts, to make sure there wouldn't be any negative impacts on them. Obviously, this is on a busy thoroughfare, even though it's zoned residential. So, but they did approve it at the last Planning Commission meeting.
Excellent. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Bob, I had a couple of questions. First of all, I received some emails regarding the blue light district. Signs are gone?
That was my doing.
Lynn, I gotta tell you, you're gonna get so many Christmas cards this year. I mean, you really are. Thank you so much, Lynn. Thank you.
welcome.
Got emails, wasn't quite sure who did it, but I will pass it along to the email individuals, and I'm sure you'll be getting some Christmas cards. Thank you. It's very, it is that noticeable. It is that noticeable. Thank you. Thank you, and a great job. Also, I just want to ask, I went to the Lyon Township with the opening of the chamber, and I just wanted to let you know that Lyon Township was there with their economic development director pitching, the retail and things like that, and, maybe, I don't know, do you go to chamber meetings?
I do
Okay.
often. I had another higher priority that
Oh,
day.
yeah, okay. Okay.
Definitely.
And who?
I communicate regularly with Tina.
Okay, okay. Who from the city is going to take over a map, or a zoning map? I mean, the cities, the communities that are giving them maps have nice, large, colored zoning maps, and they're, framed, and I'd like to see South Lyon have something competitive with what the other communities are doing.
I can address that also. We did very recently get the revised mapping from Oakland County, and we've amended the map, so the master plan's all set with, to come forward to the next meeting. And also, we're amending the zoning map, and we can print out the big ones and the small ones, so I think everybody's happy to have the revised maps in place. We just needed the revised base mapping from Oakland County.
Because I don't mind paying for it, I mean, that could, I don't mind doing it. I just want us to be as competitive. I mean, they're large maps that they are blowing up, and so I'm sure there's a little bit of a production cost plus with a frame or laminate or something, but I'd like to see South Lyon, having the same kind of, so I just want to stay on top of that. I'll put that on my,
I'm sure I can get that done and take it during one of the chamber board meetings as I sit on the board.
oh, thank you so much. What's going on with the hotel? Have they pulled a permit yet?
The hotel is working through the zoning administrator and with Carmen, and they did not submit sufficient drawings first time around, and so they were asked to resubmit. And talked to Corey Bela last Friday, said they were resubmitting their plans today or tomorrow. Ball's in their court.
They will also be applying for a variance to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a couple of different things that is necessary for the rebuild since they completely demolished and are doing a new structure.
Does that include the parking lot?
Yes.
Whatever happens, happens, but, I'm just going to say what I said before, very early on. You are at a cusp where you have an opportunity to keep this business in this town. I'm just saying.
I met with Corey today
Okay, all right.
and discussed
I haven't
everything.
talked to him about
Nope.
it, so-
And discussed what steps that they need to take. He's familiar. He knows that it's a process. I believe he picked up a copy of the ZBA application today when he was here. And we're moving forward.
And that's important. I mean, that it's a positive movement forward. And that parking lot's been there for, 50, 60, 70, 100 years? Nobody had a problem with it. So I understand they got to get a variance, but there's a hardship there because there's no more land to buy. And I have not spoken to anybody that's affiliated with it, so I don't want you to think that Corey, or anything like that. But when I hear these little rumblings, that's why I said, I've been asking, have they pulled a permit? Where are we?
We have done, and I will repeat, everything
I know.
conceivably possible, bent over backwards. And I don't know of another community in Oakland County that could have worked with them better in every facet. Everything within our power. Certainly, variances are not within our power. But we were working with them. We're on top of it. As I said, they are in need of responding.
They have to be here. We have to have that for them. Thank you. Those are just my comments.
I have a couple of things. Bob, I'll look at you. Can you please provide an update as the status of the Mediterranean restaurant, where they're at? I spoke to the owner, Sonny. He said that he was working with Tim on a few issues in the Mediterranean. Or he was waiting some information that maybe the letter came from you. But that's why I need some clarification. That's
I
why I'm
have not
asking.
been involved.
No? Anybody?
I have not been involved.
All right, I'll go back to Sunny then, that's no problem.
Last I did hear, they had some issues with the property owner had not pulled the proper permits to do everything and requested inspections, but I believe that had been straightened out.
Okay. All right, I'm going to ask about that because I know many people in the community are looking forward to that opening. Next, I believe, what was it, last month or 2 months ago, Lynn, Bobby, you guys took a trip to the west side of the state. What day was that?
Yeah, we actually haven't gone yet. We were
Haven't?
waiting on the target market analysis from the county, which we received last week.
Okay, so what day are you going? And if this has been communicated, I apologize, I don't
Well,
have the
I
date in front of
think
me.
knowing the restaurant schedule, this is the worst time of year to try to sit down with a business group because the representatives aren't all going to be available. We have the market information available. Definitely, we're going to plan that trip when they're available. I've had a couple pre-planned meetings and going to be going to Plymouth actually tomorrow to meet with the restaurant developer.
Okay.
And I had another meeting last Tuesday with a restaurant developer. And they've all expressed they need to now move on for the crunch time of their life and then really get back with us. But continue communicating with us between now and after the holidays.
Okay. Also, I was curious, I heard some rumors, and I'm sure the community's very curious about replacement for Browns. Is there anything you can talk about with
The
that?
sale is supposed to be announced any day. It's a local business owner that's buying it, so that'll be announced. And the intended use is to put a restaurant operation into the existing building for 2 to 3 years. The new property owner, Browns, is also looking at purchasing adjacent properties, negotiating with property owners. Looking at the special assessment district, which appears to be, looking forward, continuing to plan for a special assessment district to address the drainage there, so that he would eventually redevelop the entire parcel and adjacent parcels if he can acquire them.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
So can you elaborate on that report that came out a little bit? Is it too early to do that, or can you, about the amount of money that's spent in the?
It's too early. There was a 1975 study, a 1998 study, and did break through, and we're have a person at the Road Commission. Thank Maggie for hooking me up with the right people to get to the right people at the Road Commission, and Lynn's contacts. So I think within the next 2 weeks we'll have a date for a meeting with the Road Commission to talk about special assessment district next steps.
What's your gut feeling about the TIA?
Oh, the TIA turn. I did get 2 emails. First one was an apology, admitted totally blew it, did not respond to Lloyd and I as intended. And so we're working to get a meeting for him to present his findings.
I guess that's interesting because from what I understand is they were actually there and visually saw the problem firsthand. It isn't just us giving them a report. You know, they actually saw the problem with the trucks making cars back up and cause all the headache that we've been discussing for a very, very long time. So I'd like to see them hopefully favorably really take it seriously because it's a big problem downtown.
John, I do have one more thing. I was going to wait till the manager's report, but since Bob's up here, I'll make it brief. I want to I know it's outside of the downtown, but I'm sure you had your hands in this, but I wanted to just bring to attention the sidewalks outside of King Plaza, and I think that is just so terrific that those are in there. That's something that's been a pet peeve for me for years, that something really needed, and I'm glad to see that the landlord decided to step up, make an investment, and put those in there. Because I got to tell you, where I live in my subdivision, not just my subdivision, but all the residents in back down Marjorie Ann and Lyon Street, come up there, go up the street, they go through Sayre Elementary, they go down the streets, and then to get the Mickey's ice cream, they have to get off their bikes and walk it. And now this is just improved safety once again. So I want to say kudos for Lynn or Bob, keeping your hand on the pulse on that, so.
Lynn and Bob Martin.
Bob as well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's Bob and Lynn and whoever. I'm glad it's done, okay? Thank you, guys.
I was not involved, but as I get my relationship with the building owners, I would be involved in things like that in the
Yeah,
future.
I didn't
But
know
that's
if you had a
definitely a
hand.
Bob and Lynn at this point.
Bob?
One Bob.
Thank you. That was it. The Bobs.
Anyone else? No.
I had one item, just as a reminder that I received confirmation, I got a hold of most of you, but not all of you, that the Discover the D TV show, it'd be good for the residents to hear this. That's the public TV, Channel 56 Detroit, will air the first segment on downtown South Lyon, November 21st. And it'll probably air 2 weeks after that. So it's perfect for the holiday season for our businesses.
Thanks. Thanks, Bob.
Hey, Lynn.
All right. Just a few announcements. I want to remind everyone, several of these things have already been brought up, but tomorrow is the open house at the Witches Hat Depot. All of the buildings and facilities in the historic village will be open to the public for tours, and that runs from 7:30 p.m. till 9 p.m. The council should have gotten their invitations at the last meeting. Next Monday, a reminder, the 21st is a special Parks and Rec Commission meeting to have the public hearing on the Parks and Rec Master Plan. Hope to see anybody that's interested in Parks and Rec out there. And we'll follow that up with the fact that the Parks and Rec Commission is currently seeking volunteers to sit on the board. There are currently 2 vacancies due to resignations for time conflicts, so they'd really like to get those filled. This weekend is the last weekend for the downtown tailgates Saturdays. This is something that the businesses in the DDA district are doing. They will have specials and tailgate gear for sale on Saturday. And that will lead us into Small Business Saturday the following week, which our downtown businesses are participating in. As Josie mentioned earlier, the Cultural Arts Quilt and Fiber Arts Show opens this Wednesday with a reception from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And they are raffling off a quilt. You can get the tickets either at the Lake Street Mercantile or from a member of the Cultural Arts Commission or Wednesday evening at the reception. But the raffle will continue going on and selling tickets until the deadline of December 9th. Reminder that City Hall will be closed next Thursday, the 24th, and Friday, the 25th for the Thanksgiving holiday. And want to remind everyone that Cool Yule is coming up on December 3rd. That is after our next meeting, but not long enough after our next meeting, so I wanted to make sure we brought it up. They are currently accepting registrations for the parade and other activities. If you want more information, you can go to their website, which is southlyoncoolyule.com. Beyond that, I will be here for the holiday weekend, binging out on Netflix, so hopefully everybody has a good holiday.
I had a couple questions. Lynn, I just wanted to let you know at the next meeting, because I think it's only fair to let you know ahead of time so you have an opportunity to research this whole discussion with the road tonight. If you could, I'm going to ask you some questions about revenue, where we stand. I just sort of wanted to remind you about that. If we have any items that were over budget, I'd like to know any of those in the budget. Like to know if you have any amendments that you anticipate coming up in addition to the road. Like I said, I just sort of want that. I also like to know how much money has been restored to sewer and water with that operating loss. So I just sort of want a financial picture, and I don't think it's fair to just ask you the night of the meeting. I'd like to give you an opportunity to put some things together. What is the city's procedure on resignations? Do they come to city council or what?
Board resignations? Yes,
Yeah.
you guys vote on them. In fact,
No, the resignations.
the resignations are submitted to the city, and then
Do they come to us?
they are presented to the council to vote to approve or accept.
Was there a resignation from the planning commission? I don't remember that coming up here. Who resigned on the planning commission?
Ms. Siegel?
Michael Joseph resigned from the planning, Carol Siegel resigned from the planning commission,
Okay.
and that,
Michael was just appointed.
right. he
Yeah, Michael was disappointed, but I
Carol
did,
Siegel resigned a
I don't
couple of
recall-
months ago, and it came before the council as just an approval.
I don't remember that. Okay, all right, I don't remember that at all. The next thing I just wanted to let you know about is, I had an opportunity when I was over at South Lyon Square. I was checking on the pavement over there, and their general contractor, Richie, was there. And I had an opportunity to talk to him. I had some questions about drainage, a little bit, coming off of the roof line. And actually, we had a very nice discussion, and actually, we went to lunch over in South Lyon. And I just think that it was a good opportunity to sit down and discuss vision. You know, vision for what is sort of was my vision, not council's vision, not anybody else's vision, but just what I thought that South Lyon Square was going to be developed in terms of really a nice facade, you know, decorated seasonally, nice landscaping in there, make it a really nice piece of property. And I got a good response from Richie. He and Brian are very committed to South Lyon. They want to see this work. And I had a good comfort level. So I wanted to at least bring that to your attention. Haven't had any contact with him since, but that was last week. And it was just very impromptu. It happened on Friday. I was driving by and took advantage and found him to be very cordial and very receptive to wanting to hear what we wanted and how we wanted that place to look. So I felt that the door was opened a little bit, just with me, because I have been a critic of the development. The next thing I wanted to let you know, Lynn, that I did is I received a confidential letter or whatever from Tim. Although, you know how I feel about these confidential letters, Tim. I never find anything confidential in them at all. But anyway, this was the one from Varnum talking about the Rizzo contract, which we've talked about at city council meetings, so we've talked about the signability of the contract. So I found the letter from Mike Mansick that I read, which he discussed the transaction of how this went down, which is where I was very interested in, because how the transaction occurred clearly depends on whether or not there was an assignment. And it's clear that maybe there was some misunderstanding of how this transaction actually went about. So anyway, I called the attorney, Mike Mansick, and spoke to him based on the letter that was attached to Tim's materials. And one thing led to another, and I found out that the CEO of GFL, by the name of Patrick Dovigi, actually is in the state of Michigan during the weekdays. He goes home on weekends to Toronto, but he is coming here in Michigan to sort of oversee some of the transition issues. And found out that the CEO of GFL was actually attending a Bloomfield Township meeting, and meeting with them and answering their questions. And I said, you know what, I want to be treated just like Bloomfield. And you know, if Patrick can go to Bloomfield Township and meet with their Board of Trustees and do a Q&A, then I would like to have him come to our city council meeting also. So it looks like the CEO of GFL, which is a Canadian company, will be here at some point. We are looking at November 28th. So I wanted to let you know about that. I told Rich I would give him a call tonight and at least let him know that I informed City Council of it. I can't think of any other better opportunity than to have the CEO of that company come in here and answer some of the questions. I know I've already received some complaints about how some of this hauling is being done in the city, and I would like to speak to the man directly. And I want to know for sure that there's been a change, and I told this to Rich. I said I want to know that there's been a change in the corporate culture in this organization, and I want to hear it from the man who runs it. So I think this is a major coup for City of South Lyon to have this corporate leader come and speak to us. So I want to let you know about that. Lynn, I'll send you an email on my conversation with Rich tonight.
Okay.
John, can I comment on that? That's great news to hear, because given the allegations that have happened, and I know it's a separate company, but just having trash is important, and having getting our questions answered, and it is, you know, they can say one thing and do something else, but actually having them in front of a meeting on tape, that puts a little feet to the fire. And I recall when we had the issue with DTE, it was last year. DTE was going to come in and kind of do things their way, and then all of a sudden they admitted, okay, we didn't follow our proper procedure, we didn't follow our protocol, we say we do all this great stuff, but really we didn't follow any of these steps. And they were very, you know, the good news is no trees have been cut down, but we're going to fix what we were supposed to. All right, but I digress. The point I'm making is by them coming in and being in front of our body and being in front of tape and residents, it really gave that opportunity to get the kind of level of service that we deserved and we come to expect in the city. So I think this is great news. I'd like to see how this develops. Thank you.
Council comments? Glenn?
Got nothing.
Mary?
So I wanted to give a shout out to South Lyon High School Marching Band. They performed at States and they did a wonderful job and they sounded fantastic. And I just wanted to let them know that we as a community are proud of you. So congratulations to South Lyon Marching Band. Also the quilt show, that looks really exciting. So I'll be purchasing my tickets for the raffle and good stuff coming from the Cultural Arts Commission. It's cool to see what you guys are doing. And lastly, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
Don't forget South Lyon East High School.
I'm South Lyon East.
This was their first year marching competitively, and South Lyon East scored 8th out of 12 at state, and South Lyon High, in Flight 3, South Lyon High has gone to states for 15 years. They scored 7th out of 12 in Flight 2.
Okay, so I stand corrected. South Lyon East, congratulations as well. That's fantastic news. Thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome.
We're proud of both.
Well, I'd say it's hard to believe that we've had Halloween since our last meeting, and it seems like it was ages ago, but I did want to personally thank the officers, and not only the police officers, but our fire department for going downtown, not just downtown, to the subdivisions and passing out the candy. Again, I know you guys do it every year, but it was just tremendous to see the looks on the kids' faces. I took some pictures and put on Facebook just to show the community what was around. So thank you guys. And also, it's too bad I don't see Marilyn here, because I wanted to personally thank her for, as a downtown business owner, for passing out candy downtown. And not just her, but all the downtown businesses. I think that's wonderful. Having all these children come downtown, getting the candy, and just the smiles on their faces was terrific. So now I kind of want to take a moment to make a little bit of a personal note, and it's more of a thanks to everybody in the community as abroad. As many people know, my wife, Sheila Rizzi, she ran for school board, very well backed, supported, and the support that we received, not only her but me, was very overwhelming, and it was it just really hits me hard to know how much support was out there. And for those who don't, most people know that it's not just the city of South Lyon, it's the whole area. And just a few numbers that I wanted to read, just because I want to thank everybody, I want to thank the over 2,500 South Lyon voters who voted for Sheila, close to 3,000 residents of Lyon Township, over 1,700 Green Oak residents, one of my favorite communities, voted for my wife, close to 800 residents in Salem and Northfield Township, and also 300 residents in Wixom and Novi. So from the bottom of my heart, I just want to say thank you for the support, and I want to congratulate also Margaret Fallow. She was elected to the school board, another South Lyon resident. So it's great to see two highly educated residents from South Lyon on the school board representing our community. With that being said, I did gain a lot out of this past election. For those who know me, they know that I'm not shy to campaign or say hi to people or let my voice be heard. And over the past few months, I was doing my campaign duty, which I promised my wife, standing at the polls all day, precinct 2 and 3 at Bartlett. And once again, the support was so overwhelming. We received so many thumbs ups, honks of the horn, people stopping by to tell us that they voted for Sheila. It was just amazing. And for this election, I really felt a sense of pride. I felt like there were so many patriots who showed up to vote for the presidential race and get involved in that race. And I'm so proud of our residents, 76%, and them showing up for that election and voting the way voting. So I want to thank our residents. And while I was at the polls, I spoke to many residents. There was a lot of people. I was there all day. And there was a common theme. And people were sick. They were fed up with out-of-control government. They were fed up with status quo. And these are quotes I wrote down. Do-nothing politicians. And they were sick and tired of not being heard was one of the themes that was resonating. And this is what I've heard over the past 3 months of campaigning and being out there on election day. It was very vocal. And in speaking with residents, I was also told that they feel the same way about local government, unfortunately. And for everyone who feels that their voice is not being heard, I just want to say that I am listening. And as a city, I believe that we can do better. We can do better as a city council. Maybe it's getting along or whatever it is, as a city as a whole, providing better services, doing more due diligence, getting roads fixed. Whatever the case may be, we can do better. And I think we made some very positive changes over the past year. Look at tonight, passing border review reform, something that's been long overdue. Getting our ordinances updated. I mean, we've done that in the past year. Took years. Now we can at least go after some of these, as I call them, slumlords who maybe don't keep up the property. But that hasn't happened until recently. So my message is very simple, and I'll conclude with this note. I believe that more change is coming on this city council, this board here, so we can better and serve our residents even more and better. And I encourage candidates to run for city council. And myself, I will lend help to any political outsider, somebody who's outside of the political system. And if they want to run for council, I encourage them to, and to run for council this coming year in 2017. With that, thank you, good night, and hope everybody has a nice night.
Tim, that letter you sent this afternoon regarding Rizzo and GFL, and there seems to be a difference of opinion, but it doesn't seem like all the facts are known as far as the agreement between GFL and Rizzo. I think according to that letter from, what was the gentleman's name,
Mike Sabo.
No, it's Mike Mansick. Mike Mansick is from Varnum. He's from the #1 corporate transactional law firm in the state of Michigan.
Mike's talking about the letter from Miller Canfield that came out this afternoon.
Miller Canfield is representing the recycling company, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, but there was also some references to the assignments.
Right.
From South Lyon and Wixom. I can't remember the other cities.
Southfield is.
Right, so are we going to follow up on that letter from the Miller Canfield attorney to see if there's any additional information we can get to substantiate GFL's claim that it wasn't an assignment?
Yeah, we could, yes, I can make the call, but as indicated in the Miller Canfield letter, the Rizzo transaction is subject to confidentiality, so it's not clear whether Rossock or the city of South Lyon will get any of that documentation, but
Okay.
I'd certainly be happy to ask.
Okay.
And maybe that's a question,
Yes.
if the CEO of GFL is going to come to the city council, maybe that's a question.
Well, it's going to be interesting if they try to hide behind a confidentiality agreement when the issue is whether or not it was assignment. I don't know. That's going to be an interesting discussion to have with this CEO.
The CEO is also attending the RSOC meeting this Thursday, and I will be in attendance as a board member.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, just on that, just to piggyback what Mike is saying, is the reason that I was prompted to call Rich is because I was interested in whether or not this was an asset purchase agreement or a stock purchase. And this was a stock purchase. So when you purchase stock of a company, there's nothing to assign because you now step into the shoes of the owner. there's no assignment of but it's my understanding that if we can get Patrick here, that his attorney is also going to be here too. So that'll be a good thing. Also, I would like to thank both chiefs. I got a lot of compliments from my neighbors. I sat outside and had a fire pot on Halloween, and all my neighbors saw the police officers that were handing out candy, and they saw the fire truck. And I do have a question, Chief. What was that thing that was spinning around in the front of the truck?
It's just part of the new lighting package.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, well, I just want to say you made a hit in Hidden Creek. Neighbors were just very, very pleased, and I think that is a wonderful community project that you do. I'm going to sort of also talk just a little bit about this past election. I've been active politically on this 2017-16 election year for almost a year and a half. And without going into any detail except for a scarecrow that was planted downtown South Lyon about a year ago, I think I was able to be with some very, very exciting individuals the past year. And lessons that I learned from the campaign field clearly talk about listening to what people have to say. And I think that's real important. I myself spent a lot of time listening to voters when I was out campaigning, and the message clearly did not change from when I ran. I've been out in the field since almost June, in the field both here in South Lyon and in another county. And the message is very, very clear. And for anybody on this council that doubts it, I'll buy a steak at Fleming's. Because that message is very, 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 very loud. And I would have to say that this was a great election, and I want to thank all the people in the city of South Lyon, regardless of who you voted for. Thank you for stepping up and taking time out of your day to research the issues and come to the polls and vote. I think Lisa Deaton, I worked with city clerks in probably 15 cities. And I will tell you right now that Lisa Deaton was probably the top city clerk that I worked with. She by far was on top of everything. And I mean that, Lisa, you did a fabulous job. And believe me, I had a lot of city clerks that I was working with. So you were just way, way up there in terms of responding to voters, responding to questions, responding to issues regarding ballots. I heard them all. I got emails. I heard them all. You were absolutely fabulous. I also had the pleasure to assist on campaigns for two big winners on school board, Sheila Reese and Margaret Fallow. And there was a reason why I chose to spend some time working on their campaigns and providing them with some political strategy is because they were women. And they were entering into the political field for the first time. And I took to heart Kathy Crawford's comment, an article that was in the South Lyon Herald is, "Where are the women after all these years?" Well, guess what? There's women like me that are out there that are going to help women continue to move forward in terms of elected office. Both of these women, as Joe said, were highly educated, and I like to emphasize, ladies, they were first-time entrants to the public service and to the political arena. Another woman that I assisted was Tom Bellinger over in Northfield Township. Ton was also a first-time entrance into the political arena. Ton had one of the highest numbers that Northfield Township trustee had in her election. And I was at her congratulatory party on Saturday. She, too, is a newcomer to politics, and she campaigned very well, and I congratulate her. And maybe some of you might have heard her voice on Wham Radio. I also assisted another female down in Washington County that did not make it on the Washington County Board of Commissioners. She ran an excellent campaign, but the winds of change were not as strong in Washington County as they were in other areas of the state of Michigan. But that doesn't. But when I spoke with Julie, it has not derailed her. She is going to continue to stay active and look for other opportunities to run for elected office. I'd also like to note that Lisa Blades also was elected over in Lyon Township. I, too, have had conversations with Lisa, and when you looked at her numbers, I believe she did better than Sean O'Neill in this last election. So women can win in elections, and I encourage women in the city to please step forward and to run for office, particularly for city council in 2017. Some women have already contacted me, and yes, I have decided that I am willing to help them. There are many of us in the area that are willing to help these candidates, these first-time candidates, enter into the field of politics. Like Kathy Crawford, our elected state representative, Sheila Reese has already stepped forward and is willing to assist. Margaret Fallow, who I worked on her campaign, she is willing to assist. Tom Bellinger from Northfield Township is willing to assist. Amy McCusker, who is on the South Line School Board, will also be willing to assist. So ladies, if I can do anything, no doubt 2017 is going to be an extremely aggressive and robust campaign season for the city of South Lyon. And with more change, I am confident, I am very confident that more change is going to come to the city. And finally, I believe we will get a jump start with what I think is the real vision for the city of South Lyon. And I just want to say, for all those doubters, when I put up that scarecrow a year ago downtown, who would have thought that we would be talking about President-elect Donald Trump? Thank you.
No, thank you for coming.
You have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Said that.
Aye.
Aye.
Talk.
She's gonna roll.